Hi. So now it's time for us to continue the original Palm Beach police notes. We're now getting into the meat and bones of the investigation. So in last video, for those who have not watched it, I suggest right now, go over, stop, reverse, go over to the first video, watch it so you can follow the full police reports as it. But in the last video, we read the report of Officer Michelle Pagan, who was the original responding officer, if I can speak properly. It's a Sunday. So we heard the reports of the original responding officer, Michelle Pagan. She's the one who received the call and started the investigation when a parent or the stepmother of a 14-year-old called the Palm Beach police to report some inappropriate interactions between her 14-year-old daughter and Epstein. So in the first video now, we have also been introduced to the initial suspects. And in 2005, we now know there was 3 suspects that were mentioned and were supposed to be charged in this case. That was Jeffrey Epstein, Haley Robson, and Sarah Kellan. Now, the report also outlined 17 different victims that the Palm Beach police the Palm Beach police actually spoke to at that time. There's also other witnesses, as well as victims who straight up said no and refused to talk. So we also got introduced to the victim A, who was the youngest victim, and she was 14 years old. Let me see if I can find that list again. So we had her as the youngest victim at 14 years old. We are going to be referring to her as Sally throughout this as we go through the entire police investigation notes. And also when we get to actually read the grand jury, because she's the only witness, she's the only victim that actually testified. We're also, now, in addition to her, there was 6 victims that were spoken to that were 16 years of age. 5 of them were 17 years of age. 4 victims were 18 and 1 victim was 19 years of age. Through the police reports, all victims who are underage are redacted, and their parents are also redacted, obviously, so it keeps anonymous as we keep going through. Now, the case was then transferred from Officer Michelle Pagan to Detective Ricarry, and that's where we're starting today. All right, so here we go. Here's where we start. So the case has been transferred to Detective Ricarry by Officer Michelle Pagan. Today we read from Officer Ricarry. We begin reading his notes. Again, if this is your first video, there's 89 pages of this. We're gonna be splitting it. I'm gonna try and keep it to about an hour-ish so it doesn't get too overwhelming. So if you're listening now, if you're driving, great. If you're at home, pick up a broom, do whatever you do, have something in the background. Let's get to these notes. All right, so this is Officer Detective Ricarry now brings their notes over. His notes start on, oops, sorry, I moved a little bit too far ahead. September 19th, 2005 is his first entry. So before we begin, if you have not hit the subscribe button, now is the time to make sure you do not miss a thing as we as a group and a community expose the truth about what really went on with this investigation, the Epstein investigation, and stop falling for the red herrings and distractions that the House committee is trying to send to people saying they're releasing notes. They're not releasing any important stuff. Trust me, we'll get there. Let's continue because I digress a little bit. But I also want to let you guys know that I finally set up a Substack because it was getting very hard for me, to get the information out to you. Stuff was getting taken down. It was a mess. If I told you what's happening, you'd think I'm absolutely crazy. Maybe we'll talk about it later. But so now I have a Substack. The Substack is going to have the longer form content. So I'm going to keep the stuff that's safer on YouTube. Like YouTube's gonna have the PG versions. Substack's gonna have like the full form. So if you want to go note by note, completely just read the files, nothing taken out, all the sensitive information, if you're strong enough and want to know the truth, that can be found on Substack. I will also be uploading case notes, case files, and documentation so you can follow right along and like see the stuff for yourself. Members will also be allowed to print off the documents for themselves as well. We'll also be adding, let's see what else I would be doing. I think that's about it. So fuller cut versions, we'll have documents on there for you guys to read. Thank you again for supporting us on Substack, and thank you for supporting and watching on YouTube, especially people who've kind of followed from the beginning. Thank you for your patience with me. Now let's get to it.
Welcome back to the Unredacted Truth, where we fill in the missing gaps in the world's largest scandals and mysteries. In a world of rumors and theories, my job is simple: uncovering the truth underneath the glitter and the grime. We are exposing a pattern: protection, power, predators, structures built not on justice, but on silence, fear, and impunity. We're not talking theory, we're talking court records, stamps, dates, testimony, and a system that, to this day, continues to fail the public and protect the predators among us. Let's get to it.
All right, so we're ready. So we start on September 19th, 2005. I have to get myself ready for this every single time. I have to say, like, doing this also, other than like my own issues and trauma and healing from this, it is so mentally and like emotionally draining to be going over like these terrible things over and over again. But anyway, here we go. Brace yourselves. Wusa, let's read the case files and let's give the victims their truth and their stories back. All right, so Officer Joe Recarey was the main detective from this point forward. He kind of like took it as far as he could. He really, really tried to fight for the victims, but you're going to see as we read through how like his hands were tied and he was basically steamrolled by people in the state attorney's office. Let us like I don't know. I was in awe for how much he tried to fight for the victims, and I really feel bad for him. And he should probably receive a little bit more maybe recognition or something. I think if anybody's going to help us push and gain justice for the victims, it's going to be Officer Recarey. Anyway, let me stop mumbling. Let's keep going on. So he writes, Officer Joe, I'm going to call him Officer Joe for this to make it a bit easier for me and your ears. So on September 19th, 2005, Officer Joe starts his first report, and he writes, on September 19, 2005, I met with Officer Pagan and received the information pertaining to this case. Members of the Burglary Strike Force, BSF, Burglary Strike Force, I was confused about what that meant at first, had previously been conducting surveillance on both Epstein and Robson. Haley Robson is the 18-year-old suspect at this point. Again, for those who haven't watched the first installation of this series and going through the police notes, please go back and watch that first so you know who we're talking about. So Haley Robson is the person who took the initial 14-year-old. So she's suspect A at this point. All right, so it goes on. So Officer Munyan was assigned to monitor the Epstein home, and Sergeant Sorge and Officer Minot were assigned to monitor Robson. Both teams provided surveillance log that will be placed into the attachment file. So Detective Dawson has assigned to relieve Officer Munyan at 4 p.m. He informed me that at approximately 8 p.m., Epstein had left for the airport and his private jet was sitting on the tarmac. Epstein's private vehicle drove to the jet and unloaded packages into the jet. It appeared that Epstein left the county at this time, county being Palm Beach. Surveillance will continue to determine when Epstein will return. So this is his first entry as he's just received the case. Okay, so the next report that we hear from, my computer's not here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the next report we hear from before my laptop dies is Gregory Parkinson. Gregory Parkinson does testify in the grand jury trials as well. We will see that when we get to that point. But the next person that we hear from now is Gregory Parkinson. Okay, so Gregory Parkinson writes that on Friday, September 23rd, 2005, at approximately 1:45 p.m., I began to copy a tape microcassette under case number 05368 and property number 05243. Tape number 1. I placed the tape in the telex copy at Series 2 machine and began to go through the copying process. Approximately halfway through the tape wrapped around the spindle and became locked and stretched the tape. I examined it and determined that it was in the best interest to leave it as there is a prior copy had been made and turned over to Surgeon Frick. I immediately took the tape to Surgeon Frick and allowed him to examine it, and then obtained the copy from him and Detective Ricarry, and brought the copy of the tape down and made a copy for him based on that. The tape was placed back into the original container and is retained in the evidence bag under the previously mentioned property number 05243. It is not advisable to attempt to copy this tape as further damage could result to the recorded material and there is an existing copy. Now, I'm not sure if this is either the minor victims' interviews, because those were recorded, or if it is the controlled calls. So controlled calls were made from the minor victim with police listening to Haley Robson to see if they could catch her or have actual proof and recording of her setting up work or a massage for her to go to Epstein's house for a massage, all right? So then the next entry looks like it's Gregory Parkinson's again. And he writes, on September 24, 2005 at 11 p.m., so this is the next day, a copy of tape 2, case number 05294, had been made for Detective Pagan by evidence specialist Annette Badger. The copy was turned over to Detective Recarey. On Friday, September 23rd, 2005, at approximately 2:15 p.m., which I think that's when he had written that here. So yeah, the day before on 2:15 p.m., I was in the process of reproducing audio tapes, micro and standard, to standard size when it was discovered in the test review process that the tape number 2 was blank. I notified Surgeon Frick and Detective Ricarry. I was informed that they had a prior copy and I could use it to make a master tape. I did so, and when reviewing and signing the evidence sheet, I noticed evidence specialist Badger, Annette Badger, I believe it's her name, had written number 2 is blank. I obtained that copy from Detective Ricarry and made a new copy on a standard tape. The new copy was placed in the evidence bag under property number 05294 with a blank tape. So it's really weird. So for us who have been following along, in the first, so far all we know that she's taped is the standard calls and the minor victims interview. So it's really messed up how these 2 tapes have gotten issues with them and they're not being copied properly or are not working, are getting ruined. And it's the main freaking evidence they need to push this through. Other thing, this also brings if you knew how many weird tech, even when Mercury's not in retrograde, take life things have come up with me that have forced me to push, that have caused like entire recordings to just disappear, that have forced me to almost not get through this process. It's starting to make me believe that something was going on in that freaking temple and the island, and those demons are working overtime to make sure this freaking case stays sealed and people are protected. Because just as like they're having issues, again, this is just weird connections, just as they're having weird issues with the main evidence in the tapes, the amount of technical issues and life problems I've had since I started this mission, seriously, something weird and spiritual is probably going on there. Again, my opinion, not facts, just throwing that out there. Anyway, let's continue. So, from Parkinson's report, it looks like now here, Officer Ricarry takes over again. All right. So Officer Ricarry doesn't show a date here. So I am thinking there's no date here because it's a continuation from his report. It's just the way they've entered it. And his report had began and started on September 19th. So I'm thinking this is also on the 19th of September. We'll see. So Officer Ricarry starts again. Narrative number 5. This is labeled. It states, copies of the tapes that are submitted into evidence were requested. Additionally, trash pulls were started on September 21st, 2005. Sergeant Szorski made telephone contact with Tony Higgins, supervisor of the sanitation department, and requested the trash be pulled and Szorski met with sanitation worker Jeff Williams and observed him enter the property at 358 Elbria Way. Elbria Way, once again, that's Jeffrey Epstein's address. Shortly thereafter, Williams exited the property and placed 3 white trash bags in the empty well in the rear of his truck. Williams then drove away where he met with Sergeant S. Let's just say Sergeant S for now, who removed the bags from the well and placed them into one large black trash bin. The bag was returned to the police station where I was waiting for him. Upon his arrival, we inspected the bags where several notes and papers were found. So this must be on the 21st. When this, or maybe it's even on the 24th. Because narrative number 4 is by Sergeant or Detective Perkins, who is in the evidence room. So he starts his narrative on the 24th, which is a Thursday? No, Saturday. I believe, on a Saturday. He starts his narrative on a Saturday. And then next is Officer Recarey's, Officer Joe, let's just say Officer Joe, is narrative number 5, no date. So this could be the Saturday of the 24th of September or 5 that this is being reported. Not sure. So, and the Saturday was the 24th. Where were we? So Williams has picked up. He's gone. Officers waiting for him. Upon his arrival, okay, so there the police station was waiting for him. There we go. Upon his arrival, we inspected the bags where several notes and papers were found. These notes contained names of girls, the times. Additionally, there was a note from Redacted, so that's a minor, and Laura to Jeffrey Epstein on a notepad. So that could have been Sally or another minor, which stated for a good time called blank, Redacted, and Laura at Redacted. Also, there was a telephone number on the note, of course. And then also found, now this is the trash bowl. This is Detective Joe's first trash pull that he's investigating from Epstein's house. So also found was a written note which stated, Redacted cannot come at 7 p.m. tomorrow because of soccer. This is a high school girl, most likely high school going soccer. Like you can see how like underage these kids are. So then it goes on. These items were written on notepads. We all know about the notepads that contain Jeffrey Epstein on the bottom of the notes. These items were placed into evidence for future follow-up. I requested subpoenas for subscriber information, the telephone numbers listed above on the note from Redacted and Laura. So Redacted, whenever I say Redacted, that is a minor or a minor's family. The cellular telephone numbers and are both assigned to singular service. Other notes were found within the trash in Jeffrey Epstein's pad, papers that contained telephone numbers. One note had redacted with redacted written on it, so those are two other minor victims. This cellular number is assigned to singular cellular service. So this is how I guess they tracked on all the 17 total victims that they were able to speak to, plus the others that said that refused to testify, but I won't jump ahead anymore. Okay, so we go on. The subpoenas were picked up and submitted to Singular and Bell South Telecommunications. Then he goes on to write, Detective Joe goes on to write, on September 22nd, 2005, I was informed by Sergeant S that there would be no trash pickup as it was recycle pickup day. A request for copies for the micro and standard size cassettes were requested from crime scene to familiarize myself with the interviews conducted. Remember, he just took over the case from Officer Pagan, and the only interviews so far are with, the victim A's parents, Sally, 14-year-old Sally's parents, and Sally has had interviews as well. And for those, again, who haven't listened to the first installment, Sally, up to this time, the 14-year-old victim, has remained and chosen to remain anonymous. Okay, so we thank Detective Joe's notes continue to say, on September 23rd, 2005, the tapes were received and I began to become familiar with the interviews that were conducted. So, good news, interviews are still okay. Detective Kroll had met with Town of Palm Beach sanitation worker Jeff Williams and observed him enter the property of 358 El Brea. Shortly thereafter, Williams exited the property and placed the 3 white trash bags in the empty well in the rear of the truck. Williams then drove away, where he met with Detective Kroll, who removed the bags from the well and placed them into one large trash bag. The bag was returned to the police station where I was waiting for them. Upon his arrival, we inspected them. So it looks like every single time they came back with trash, they met Detective Joe, and he was there when they inspected everything together. Continued to say the bags where several notes and papers were found. The notes will be inspected for future use. The items collected were placed into evidence. It goes on to say it became evident that some of the recordings were recorded with background noise and some interference. The calls most affected were the control phone calls from the victim to the suspect, Haley Robson. I swear these demons are trying to protect these suspects, but we won't let them. I obtained the graphic equalizer and discovered that the calls are able to be legible with the use of the equalizer by lowering the background noise and increasing the voice gain. I also learned that a tape was broken during the copying of the tape. I returned the copy of the tape marked property number 05243 to have it recopied, to have an original in evidence and a working copy with the file. So hallelujah, it looks like they saved the evidence. Detective Joe continues to write, upon researching the file, it was discovered that the suspect, Haley Robson's cellular calls were subpoenaed incorrectly. The suspect telephone number was ended in 0282. Again, please, they do not have these numbers again, so we are not going to be calling people to try and find numbers and like prank calls and all that stuff. This is old. This is from 2005. No one involved has the same numbers, and if they do, they'll be dumb too. Haley Robson definitely does not have the same numbers at all, and let me also preface this again. Haley Robson, at this point, is 18 years old. She had been approached by Epstein at 17-year-old. So even though she's being seen as a suspect or being categorized as a suspect during this investigation, and basically how the world kind of like painted her as a villain, She was a victim as well, like many of the other girls. She was a minor at the time of all this conspiring and happening. All right, so we continue. So it looks like, so he has to resubpoena the phone numbers and again, resubpoena the phone records again. And it continues, says the purpose was to have a recording of Robson making calls to victim, Jeffrey Epstein, and his frequency of calls. So that was the point of the subpoena. I requested the information through singular cellular service from February 2005 through the present. The purpose was to have a record of Robson making calls to victim, Jeffrey Epstein, and the frequency of calls. The request was submitted to the state attorney's office. Investigation continues. All right. There we go. Now I want to take a quick minute to swing over to the attachments to extra files and evidence we have. So Officer Joe, let me stop trying to say his name, I'm butchering it. Officer Joe mentioned the note with the redacted underage girl who says blank cannot come 7 p.m. because of soccer. Here is a copy of that note. We also have copy, what is it called? Yeah, photocopy of those notes. Here is more notes, blank. They don't have enough for a good time call. Here we have the actual victim's name has been redacted, and Laura. Looks like it starts with a V, and then it says and Laura, and of course, like you said, Jeffrey Epstein's name at the bottom of his message pads. We also have here, we have another one from a note left from Tony. I don't know if that is Tony, like a worker at Epstein's house, or Tony F., who was Virginia's on again, off again boyfriend. For those who have followed the Epstein series that I've been doing, in the second video of Virginia's, we meet Tony. That was a high school sweetheart and her somewhat escape from the terrible life she had when she was first captured. He actually saved her. He's the one who called the cops and saved her when she was first captured by Ronald R. Eppinger when she was still 14 and had escaped from a juvenile center in Florida. Whether or not that's the same juvenile center that the 14-year-old victim A also was in, I am not sure up to date. Okay, let's get back to the police report. So now we're on to narrative number 6, where we get to meet Detective Kroll, as mentioned above, in Detective Joe's messages. So Detective Kroll, he was doing the trash balls. He writes, on or about September 23rd, 2005, at approximately 9:15 a.m., I responded to 358 El Brillo Way and met with Palm Beach sanitation worker Jeff Williams. Williams had been previously notified to assist in trash pulls at the residence of Jeffrey Epstein, 358 El Brillo, Palm Beach, Florida. I observed Williams enter the driveway of 358 El Brillo and remove several plastic bags of trash and place the contents into the bag of an empty sanitation truck. I then followed Williams to the predetermined location, seized the trash from the truck. The trash was transported to Palm Beach Police Department, where I began sifting through its contents. There was a total of 4 white in-color plastic bags that each contained documentation and correspondence for 35 El Brillo and Jeffrey Epstein. All documents of evidentiary value were removed and turned over to Detective Ricarry. For follow-up, continues to write on or about September 26, 2005, at approximately 9 a.m., I responded to 358 El Brillo and met with Palm Beach sanitation worker Jesse Jones, new person. Jones had been previously notified to assist in trash pulls at the residence of Jeffrey Epstein, 358 El Brillo, Palm Beach, Florida. I observed Jones enter the driveway of 358 where no trash was collected within the receptacles. I left the area without incidents. Next, he writes, on or about September 27th. So I guess that was the recycle day where they couldn't do any trash pulls. So Detective Kroll continues to write, on or about September 27, 2005, at approximately 9:15 a.m., I responded to 358 El Brio and met with a Palm Beach sanitation worker, Jesse Jones. I observed Jones enter the driveway and remove one plastic bag of trash and place it on the back of an empty sanitation truck. I guess this is the time they always do trash in Palm Beach, 9 a.m., 9:15. So, and then he goes on, I then followed Jones to a predetermined location and seized the trash from the truck. The trash was transported to the Palm Beach Police Department, where I began sifting through its contents. There was a total of one white and colored trash bag, which contained correspondence for 358 El Brio. All documents of evidentiary value turned over to Detective Ricarry for follow-up. Goes on to write, on or about Monday, October 3rd. So it looks like his notes are all in one. So this is Detective Kroll who is doing the trash pulls once again. So on or about Monday, October 3rd, 2005, at approximately 9:15 a.m., I responded to 358 El Brio and met with Palm Beach sanitation worker Jeff Williams. Observed Williams enter the driveway and remove several trash bags and place the contents into the back of an empty sanitation. Once again, I then followed Williams to the predetermined and seized the trash. The trash was transported to Palm Beach Police Department. This time, there was a total of 7 white in color plastic bags with a red tie and 1 black in color which contained 2 white bags in it. Each of the bags contained documentation and correspondence for 358 El Brio and Jeffrey Epstein. Goes on, inside the white, I collected broken pieces of hard plastic or clear acrylic stick which was shaped with small ridges. This device is commonly used as a which is inserted into the or for simulation. This item, along with all documents of evidentiary value, were removed and turned over to Detective Recarey for follow-up. On or about Tuesday, October 4th, 2005, at approximately 9:28 a.m., I responded to 358 El Brio and met with Palm Beach sanitation worker Jeff Williams. I observed Williams enter the driveway and remove several plastic bags of trash and place the contents into the sidewall of the sanitation truck. The side of the truck is separate from the rear of the truck and does not come into contact with other trash. I then followed Williams to a predetermined location and seized the trash from the truck. Trash was transported to Palm Beach Police Department and to sift through the items. Total of 2 white in color plastic bags tied at the top. Each bag contained, again, documentation and correspondence for 358 and Jeffrey Epstein. All documents of evidentiary removed and handed over to Detective Joe for follow-up. And continues to write, on or about Wednesday, October 5th, at 9:28 a.m., I responded to 358 El Brio and met with PB sanitation worker Jeff Williams. Observed him enter the driveway once again, remove plastic bags, place contents into the bed of the sanitation truck. I then followed Williams to a predetermined location. Since the trash from the truck, the trash was transported to Palm Beach Police Department, where I began sifting through its contents with the assistance of Detective Recarey. There was a total of 2 bags, one with white in color and tied in a knot at the top, and the other was black in color, which contained 2 white in color trash bags along with loose debris. Each of the bags contained documentation and correspondence for 358 El Brio and Jeffrey Epstein. All documents of evidentiary value were removed and turned over to Detective Joe for follow-up. So this seems to round out the report of Detective Kroll and his trash pulls. It is always the trash that gets people, like always the trash that gets them convicted. And I am just going to show you just a little bit. This is some of like the other evidence from the trash bowls that was received. So it looks like a letter from Alberto. We'll look at that later. We'll come back to that for a later time. It is important. So, but just to show you, this is about 20 pages of photocopied stuff that they had. And this evidentiary dump is from trash pull from September 21st trash pull. So this is what we're reading right now. So this is the stuff that they were able to find. The documentation, there's a restaurant here, receipt from Vice Restaurante. Larry recommends leaving. Larry Viscosi is the pilot, or was the pilot, like basically up to the end, even in 2019. It was Larry. Started off with David Rogers. I believe David Rogers just kind of like GTFO'd when like the investigation in 2005 started. And then Larry took over as the head pilot for Epstein. And then he was even like awarded like corporations, like hidden companies and corporations, like board meetings on what is it called when they're not real and they're fake. That word, you guys know what I mean. Corporations and stuff that they use to move money. He was awarded that, and he played a big part in the U.S. investigations. I have those recordings as well. Go and watch those if you haven't. You'll hear more about Larry Viscosi and the whole like Epstein enterprise within USVI. That's going to be a teaser. We will read the full documentations as well again and actually go dot by dot so you get like a full picture of it like we're doing right now. But let's get back to our report. All right. So let's keep going. Okay, so now we're back to Detective Joe's reports, narrative number 7. Detective Joe writes, I met with Detective Kroll and requested further assistance to main trash pull collections at Epstein's residence at 358 El Brio Road on October 3rd, 2005. At approximately 10:30 a.m., I was contacted by Sergeant Frick to respond to Palm Beach Police Station. Detective Kroll had observed Jeffrey Epstein riding his bicycle on South County Road. Upon my arrival, I met with Sergeant Frick, who advised as Epstein was currently in town, we interview Haley Robson. Okay, so we hadn't talked to Haley Robson yet. Just those setup calls. She had just been set up. No one had talked to her. All right, so let's go. So we interview Haley Robson as to her involvement with Epstein and the girls that are brought to his house. As we were to interview Robson in the county, outside of our jurisdiction, so of course, Haley did not live in Palm Beach. Palm Beach was for the affluent. We all know that Epstein used to target underprivileged girls and families. So it goes on to write, because we were going to interview Robson in the county outside of our jurisdiction, I contacted the State Attorney's Office Investigation Division and made contact with Assistant Supervisor Investigator Carlos Ortiz. I requested assistance to interview Robson as the interview may occur in the county. Supervisor Ortiz assigned investigator Mike Waits to assist us at the location and interview of Robson. My stomach just went crazy. I hope you don't hear that over the mic. It goes on to say, Detective Dix had responded Detective Dix had responded to the address of Robson and viewed her vehicle parked in the driveway. Robson's vehicle, a red Plymouth Neon bearing Florida tags, was parked in the driveway of court in Loxachi. As I was just looking through other evidence and reports, it looks like Virginia Roberts also lived in the same area as well, because there's police reports involving Virginia in the same county or the same area in Florida. Just like remember that as we were reading. So it goes on to say, Sergeant Frick and I responded to 120th Avenue and awaited the arrival of investigator Mike Waits. Upon his arrival, he was briefed that should she wish to be interviewed within her home, he would be needed. However, should Robson agree to return to the police station for further questioning, he would not be needed. Sergeant Frick and I knocked on the door and met with Haley Robson. At this point, Haley Robson is 18 years old. Robson was told that we were investigating a claim involving Jeffrey Epstein on El Brio in Palm Beach. Robson was asked if she wanted to accompany us back to the police station for further questioning. She was also told that at the conclusion of the interview, she would be returned home. She agreed and wished to change her clothes prior to accompanying us to the police station. At the conclusion of her changing clothes, she advised she was ready to go. I thanked investigator Waits and advised she was going to voluntarily return to the police station. So Haley at this point has talked to Detective Joe and Detective Fricks, agreed to speak with them voluntarily, and now they're going from Loxachi. So I am butchering this. Anybody from that state or like town in Florida, I am so sorry. Let me know how to actually like pronounce it in the comments below. I am sorry. So she's going from her home here, where she doesn't live anymore, so no one be showing up to this place, but she's going with them to Palm Beach to speak with them. So Detective Joe's notes continue. Upon Robson's entry in the unmarked detective vehicle, I placed a tape recorder within the vehicle to record any conversations within the vehicle. During the ride back to the police station, Robson advised she's attending Palm Beach Community College at the Palm Beach Gardens campus and is majoring in journalism. Yeah, I guess no, it makes sense that they always record even in the police vehicle herself, but I wonder if they read her like Miranda rights, because she's listed as a suspect. Yes, it was kind of all went out in the wash because with the NPA, technically the NPA protected any suspect other than Jeffrey Epstein, so it kind of like all went in the wash. But I wonder if they read her Miranda rights. But it goes on to write, upon our arrival at the police station, Robson was brought to the interview room in the detective bureau. I explained to Robson that I appreciate her willingness to assist us and informed her that should she desire to leave at any time, she may do so. I further explained the interview room door is only closed for privacy. Robson stated she understood. During the taped sworn interview, Robson was asked how she came in contact with Epstein. Robson stated back when she turned 17 years old, so she was a minor, she was approached by a friend, Molly, in the Canopy Beach Resort in Riviera Beach. I guess it's a beach in Florida. Robson was asked if she wanted to make money. She was told she would have to provide a massage that should make $200, the standard fee. Robson thought that about the offer and agreed to meet with Jeffrey, Molly, unknown last name, and Tony, unknown last name. Oh, wait, that note that I just showed you. So Tony, remember? We just showed the note from Tony. You see this? Tony. And the note is written for August 20th, 05. Look at the connections we're making. Okay, let's go back. Back to the tab. All right, so Molly and Tony, who brought her there first. Okay, so Tony, unknown last name, picked her up and she was taken to Epstein's house. Upon her arrival at the house, she was introduced to Epstein in the kitchen of the house. She was also introduced to a white female known to her as Sarah. So this is the first time that someone says Sarah. Because the 14-year-old, if you guys can remember, when she was being interviewed, she didn't know. She just said a white female was there that kind of showed her how to go upstairs and like let the thing. So now Haley Robson's confirming that this person is Sarah Kellan. She goes on to write that she was led upstairs to the main bedroom known to her as Jeff Epstein's bedroom. Sarah arranged the massage table and covered the table with a sheet. She brought out the massage oils and laid them next to the massage bed. Sarah, who we know is Sarah Kellan, then left the room and informed her that Jeff would be in a minute. Jeff entered the room wearing only a towel, similar to victim A's testimony and interview. He lay on the table onto his stomach and picked massage oil for Robson to rub on him. So again, same in victim A's. Again, it was Epstein who picked the lotion in Sally's interview and testimony. So Robson goes on to continue, she's saying to Detective Joe, that during the massage, Robson stated he tried to touch me and I stopped him. I asked how he tried to touch her. He grabbed her butt and she felt uncomfortable. Robson also stated Epstein had a massager, which is large and white in color. Remember, they had mentioned already that they had found ribbed, clear, white product in the trash bowl. So everything's connected now. So Robson told Epstein, I'll massage you, but I don't want to be touched. Robson stated she performed the massage naked. At the conclusion of the massage, Epstein paid Robson $200 for the massage. He explained, I know you're not comfortable, but I'll pay you if you bring some girls. He told her the younger the better. Robson stated she once tried to bring a 23-year-old female, and Epstein stated that the female was too old. 23 was too old for him. Robson was asked how many girls she brought in total to Epstein. Robson stated 6 that she can remember. Robson stated that she brought all victim names because they're underage redacted. And plus the victim in this case. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1, 2, 3. Can you see? Oh, yeah. 4, 5, and then 6. Okay, so she mentioned 6. So 5 plus victim is 6. So Detective Joe goes on to reign. I asked Robson, which one was the youngest? Robson advised that the victim was the youngest, so 14-year-old Sally was the youngest. Robson stated every girl she brought knew what to expect when they arrived. They were told they would provide a massage, possibly naked and some touching. I asked if the victim was aware. She stated every girl she brought knew what to expect. She explained she knew the victim wanted to make money. She approached the victim and explained about going to work for Jeff. So I guess why they're bringing this back is victim A kept saying, first she said, she denied it and said, nah, I just went there because Haley was owed money that I was supposed to pick up. But then she maintained that no, it wasn't, like I had no idea why I was going there. So I believe now that he's seen the victim reports, that's why he's double checking and asking Haley, did she know? Again, let's not victim blame. This is a 14-year-old girl who can't even process what happened to her. She's ashamed, she's embarrassed. you can tell she's trying to, like, she tries to distance herself from the entire event. She goes from denying anything happened to say, okay, no, we just went to pick up Haley, to saying, yeah, okay, something happened, but like it wasn't. She just said she gave the massage. And then it took her a third time talking to Officer Pagan to explain that he had used a massager on her. Like, it took a long time to kind of like get her to really say what was happening, which is an understandable. Again, trauma, 14-year-old girl. Imagine like just the shame, the guilt, let's just stop. And I'm thinking we're all like grown and mature enough and have enough critical thinking to be able to like understand why the victim may have not been so ready to like say everything that happened, especially since there was a rumor at school going around that she was a prostitute. So I do not disrespect the story. And if you feel like I disrespected the story, I am sorry. Let's keep on going. So Detective Joe's notes continue to say the victim agreed. So let's start from Haley. Robson says she approached the victim and explained about going to work for Jeff. The victim agreed, and arrangements were made to bring the victim to Epstein's house on a weekend. Victim had said it happened on a Sunday. Robson stated that she and Redacted, later identified as Redacted. So if we remember, the victim had said that Haley and an unidentified, possibly Hispanic female had come to pick her up. So it looks like that girl was also underage, which is why she's Redacted. So picked up the victim at the victim's house. They traveled to Epstein's house and entered through the kitchen door. They met with the house chef and Epstein's assistant, Sarah. Now we know, again, it was Sarah Kellan, because in the minor victim, she just said it was a white woman with blonde hair. So Robson's interview with Detective Joe and Detective Joe's notes continue. The victim was introduced to Epstein while they were in the kitchen area. Matching. Sarah Kellan, I'm going to say her full last name. Sarah Kellan led the victim, the 14-year-old victim, upstairs, and Epstein went upstairs. When the massage was over, the victim returned to the kitchen area. Robson stated she was paid $200 for bringing the victim to Epstein's house. Robson stated the victim told her that she was paid $300 for the massage. Back in the vehicle, Robson asked the victim what happened. The victim told her about the massage and that they went shopping. Robson stated the victim was the last person she brought to Epstein. She further stated that she had changed her cell number to avoid being contacted by Sarah Kellan. She continued that when Epstein announces to his assistant, Sarah Kellan, that I want to shame this woman. She got away without facing any justice. I am going to say her name a million times. I am going to keep Sarah Kellan. The roosters need to come calling for you. It's time for you to face the justice that you should have. Sorry, let me keep continuing. So she goes on to explain that she further stated that she changed, Robson changed her cell phone number to avoid being contacted by Sarah Kellan. She continued that when Epstein announces to his assistant, Sarah Kellan, that he is traveling to Palm Beach, Sarah Kellan would contact Robson to arrange girls for Epstein. Sarah, later identified as Sarah Kellan, date of birth May 25th, 1979. At the time of this, Sarah Kellan was 25 years old, full grown and ready to know not to bring 14-year-old girls to this. 25, you're a grown woman, you know what you're doing. So it goes on, had told Robson that Jeff likes to have fun with his girls. Sarah Kellan, 25-year-old Sarah Kellan, told Robson, 17-year-old Robson, and 14-year-old Sally, that Jeff Epstein likes to have fun, his fun with the girls. Robson stated that once her parents discovered that she was visiting Epstein, they disapproved of the encounters with him, and she stopped. Robson further stated that Sarah Kellan still tries to call the house and leave messages. With the assistance of Robson, we're able to identify more victims. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 victims, excuse me. All right, it's like minus 5 Celsius. Actually, no, it's getting a bit better. It was like minus 11 when I woke up. I'm in Canada, by the way, so we're in Celsius. So it goes on to say, this is Detective Joe's notes, go on to say that Sergeant Frick entered the room and explained that based on her own statements, she had implicated herself with bringing underage girls to Epstein's house. Robson was aware of what she had stated and wished to assist further in hopes to receive a lesser charge. Robson provided cell phone numbers for the girls she had mentioned previously. Additionally, she also provided possible addresses and areas in which they lived. As Robson was being taken home into the vehicle, a tape recorder was placed within the vehicle to record any conversations within the vehicle. I don't know if this was before they had like the cameras, the dash cameras. I'm just picturing, for those who know Southern Charm, Catherine Dennis when she's crying about her dog. That's all that's stuck in my head for some reason as I read through this. I wonder if it was just like hidden somewhere, or it was when they still had like the camera and you could see the person in 2005. Anyway, I digress. But it says, as Robson was being taken home in the vehicle, a tape recorder was placed within the vehicle to record any conversations within the vehicle. During the drive back to her home, Robson made the comment, I'm like Heidi Fleiss, Hollywood, bracketted Hollywood madame who sent girls to clients with favors in California. I think that's Officer Joe's like added notes to let whoever is reading this know who Heidi Fleiss is. So all she said in the car was, I'm like Heidi Fleiss. Robson was dropped off at her house without incident. I said that a little bit like happy. Who knows? Like at this point, Robson is coming from a police station being told that she implicated herself with, like, in this case. So I don't think it was like, I am Heidi Fleiss. She probably just whispered it in her, like, terrified 18-year-old, just her 18-year-old voice, saying, I'm like Heidi Fleiss. And I think Heidi Fleiss, at that point, her knowing Heidi Fleiss means Heidi Fleiss are going to jail. So she was probably, like, picturing what was going to happen to her at that point and terrified. So anyway, Detective Joe's notes keep going on. Same entry. Sergeant Frank and I went to Redacted in Redacted, Florida, in an attempt to speak with Redacted. We met with Mrs. Mother at the front door. We explained the ongoing investigation and felt that Redacted may have additional information as we had information that she had worked for Jeff. So I believe this is talking to Sally. So they go back to Sally's family, dad's house, it looks like. They're speaking with her stepmom. Either her stepmom or her mom. Or maybe it's another victim. Let's just keep reading. So he goes to a minor victim's house, speaks to the mother, wants to speak to them as they have information. So it goes on to say, Mrs. Redacted, so a mother, introduced us to her husband and allowed us entry into the home. We sat in the dining room and met with Redacted. Date of birth redacted. As she was under the age of 18, Mrs. Redacted was advised we would be speaking with her. She expressed if her daughter had information she wanted to assist. As we interviewed the victim, she denied having any inappropriate encounters with Jeff Epstein. So nope, this is a different victim. I was wrong. I take that back. So after they leave Haley Robson, they make a loop-de-loop and swing by a victim, one of the names, I guess, that had Britton's house, who was underage. This one also starts with denying it. She stated she had gone to Jeff's house with Haley Robson approximately 8 months ago and sat in the kitchen with the house shift, but nothing happened. Everything starts with the kitchen. It looks like they always let the girls to the kitchen. The kitchen is the first bit of every single girl's victim story. Okay, so the victim continues. As the parents were present during the interview, we felt that the victim was withholding information from us. She made several comments as to she was put the entire she made several comments as that she has put the entire incident behind her. I left my direct telephone number and advice, should she wish to speak with me again, to telephone me. Surgeon Frank and I thanked Mrs. Redacted to her mother for her time and left the area. She stated she would ask her again after we left as to what happened at Epstein's house. I informed her that the victim had my telephone number and hopefully she would call. So he goes on to write, Surgeon Frank and I then attempted to make contact with another victim. This is redacted, so it is also a minor victim. So we met with a victim who stated that, so they met with someone, with a mother, who stated that her daughter, blank, was her daughter. So blank, who's another victim, was at the Wellington Mall and was not home. So they've gone to minor victim number 2 from the Haley Robson list. So minor victim number 2, knock on the door, mother says she's at the mall and not home. We explained the ongoing investigation and felt that the victim may have additional information, as we had information that she had worked for Jeff. We left her phone number and asked her to return to telephone me upon her daughter's return. We left the area. So out of the 5, 2 people crossed off. Like, just like Officer Pagan, Michelle, Detective Joe is on it. Like, he's ready to talk to people, investigate. They have the ball rolling. Then he goes on to write. Alrighty, so we go on. We're on October 4th, 2005. Same report by Detective Joe. On October 4th, 2005, at approximately 8:05 a.m., Surgeon Frank had received a voice call from Redacted. She stated she had spoken with her daughter, so I believe this may be the first one. And she had information as to what occurred at Jeff's house. I contacted Redacted, who stated her daughter was in the shower at the moment and would be traveling back to Orlando to college. I informed her that I would be en route to her home in Redacted. Detective Dawson and I drove to the home and met with her and her mother. During a sworn taped statement, the victim stated she was taken to the house by Haley Robson. She was told she would make money working for Jeff. She was told she would have to provide a massage to Jeff. She stated upon her arrival to the house, she was brought to the kitchen by Robson. So, continues, they met with the house chef, and Haley stayed in the kitchen. She was introduced to Sarah Kellan, Jeff's assistant, and was brought upstairs to the master bedroom. Sarah Kellan prepared the room and massage table for a massage. Epstein entered the room and she provided a massage. The victim stated she kept her clothes on during the massage. She stated sometime during the massage, Epstein grabbed her butt and pulled her clothes to him. The victim says she was weirded out by the incident involving Jeff. At the conclusion of the massage, she was paid $200 for the massage. I asked the victim if she has any formal training in massages, to which she replied no. I asked her if Robson received any monies for taking her to perform the massage. The victim stated Robson also received money for taking her there. The victim stated she went with Robson and another girl, whose name is redacted, to Jeff's house. Jeff's house once. The victim stated she waited in the kitchen with Robson while another victim was taken upstairs by Sarah. Okay, so she went with another victim and Haley Robson once. So she stated she only did the massage once, as she was weirded out by the whole experience. So she went, one time she went, the first time she went and did the massage. The second time she went, she just went with another victim, and her and Haley stayed downstairs, it looks like. Then it goes on to say, at the conclusion of the interview and the tape was stopped, I was informed that Sarah Kellan had attempted to reach the victim via her cell phone. A voicemail message on October 4th, 2005 at 10:59 a.m. revealed a female voice who identified herself as Sarah, who requested her to call her back, reference the police questioning. So I seriously believe at this point, Epstein has a mole in the police station that is telling him what's happening. So how does Sarah Kellan already know, like, while the girl's doing the interview, she's calling her about the interview? Weird, very suspicious. B, if you guys remember, again, making the joint thing, before they even talked to victim A and brought her down, there was rumors Haley Robson had heard that the father was potentially pressing charges. And this was supposed to be like discreet. And before she even spoke with the police while she was terrified, was because her father's car had been vandalized. So there was definitely a mole, a stinky, stinky mole within the police force that was updating Epstein on the investigation, what was happening. You're going to see more proof as we keep going on. So anyway, it keeps on going. So Detective Joe's, the last paragraph states that this voicemail, so the voicemail from Sarah Kellan, was recorded into a microcassette. The victim provided the incoming phone number 63. I don't care. Sarah Kellan definitely, most likely, does not have this phone number anymore. Could have even been the ones that they throw out, a burner phone. But Sarah Kellan. Anyway, keep going. The victim stated she inadvertently told another another person, about the police investigation because she had called her to tell her about how she had just received a rental car from Jeff Epstein. Okay, so she accidentally told another victim who had just been gifted a car from Epstein about the police investigation. So it goes on to say the victim had called her, so the other victim had called her to tell her that she was given a rental car, a 2005 silver Nissan Sentra, to utilize to visit family and visit Jeff. The victim asked her what was going on at the house, that the police would be asking questions. She stated then that the other girl then called Jeff and Sarah Kellan and asked that she was going to reference the ongoing police investigation. According to her, Sarah has since been trying to contact her to ask her about the police questions. I instructed her not to contact Sarah and do not provide any more information to the other girl, as she would notify Jeffrey Epstein and Sarah was transpiring. Investigation continues. Alrighty, so that brings us down to narrative number 7 of Officer Joe. So we are summarizing. Officer Joe has taken over. Officer Joe has done trash pulls with Detective Kroll. We've heard from Detective Kroll about the number of bags that was discovered from the trash pull. We've also seen some of the investigative evidence they pulled from the trash pull. Detective Joe has also spoken with Haley Robson, who's just had her first interview. Haley Robson has been made aware that she has admitted guilt in bringing underage girls into it. Detective Joe has also been able to speak with two more victims. Was it one more victim? Attempted to speak to 2. I think at this point maybe has only spoken to one victim, but he's now investigating the other victims. Jeffrey Epstein and Sarah Kellan are totally aware of the investigation, and at this point they are trying to impede the investigation, like actively trying to impede the investigation and get details from it. Okay, it looks like we're just, okay, you know what, let me pause it here. It looks like we're just 8 minutes-ish, just about the hour mark. So maybe, and my stomach is growling like insanely. So I'm thinking maybe we stop here for this portion, and then when we come back, we will finish. Actually, no. Jesse Jones, sanitation. This is the last pool of this. Let's finish Detective Lee's reports. Okay, so we've finished Detective Joe's interview and report speaking to one of the victims. The next narrative number 8. Let's finish this narrative and then we'll take a break here and then continue on. Okay, so where are we? We are on narrative number 8. This is by Officer or Detective Lee. And I believe this is more to do with the trash bowl. So, Detective Lee Lamont. Oh, yes. Detective Joe had spoken about him earlier. So, Detective Lee Lamont, no, I don't think it picks it up. Right. On March 30th, 2005, I was asked by Sergeant Daniel S. to begin conducting surveillance and trash bowls reference Detective Pagan conducting a criminal investigation involving Jeffrey Epstein. I was advised that Epstein was probably engaging in contact with young females. On March 30th, 2005, I made contact with Town of Palm Beach Sanitation Officer Tony Higgins, new person. So we have Williams, we have Jones, now Tony Higgins is a new person. And requested trash pools for 358 El Brea Way to begin on March 31st, 2005. So these are earlier trash bowls. So this is when Detective Pagan, she's rated as Officer Pagan. Maybe she got a promotion to detective. So this is when she's still having the case because if I recall, Officer Ricarry, Officer Joe, Detective Joe, I keep getting them. All of them are detectives. So Detective Joe took over in September. This is in March. So this is to be done when Michelle Pagan still has the case. Let's continue. All right, so on March 30th, 2005, I made contact with Town PB. We just read that, Tony Higgins. March 31st, 2005, at 9:20 a.m., responded to the area of 358 El Brea Way, met with Palm Beach Sanitation employee Jeffrey Williams. Back to Williams, I observed Williams enter the driveway, collect trash bags from Epstein's property, and place them into the empty sanitation truck. Followed Williams to a nearby area, and when we turned over 17 white plastic trash bags that were collected. Next, it says I took the trash bags to the sanitation department where I sifted through its contents. Oh, he did it alone. Okay. I took the trash bags to the sanitation department where I sifted through its contents. I collected mail correspondence from Armani Exchange to Nadia Marchinkova, and they have Nada all the way through this, but her name was Nadia Marchinkova. Jeffrey E. Epstein note paper with redacted, an important message note paper addressed to J.E., dated March 29, 2005 at 8:15 p.m. Reference Peggy Siegel. Peggy Siegel, what? U.S. Airways boarding pass copy for passenger. One Bansk, one is a worker, one works for Jeffrey. Does he? Hold up. All right, let's see. So I was just checking to who Peggy Siegel is. Here go. Peggy Siegel was a publicist. Looks like it's a Vanity Fair article called Regrets Only. Publicist Peggy Siegel was an essential New York Party host and omnipresent player in the annual Oscars, then her past relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Blah, blah, blah. We all know you hung out with pedophiles. Now, regrets only. For years, publicist was an essential. Then her past relationship with Jeffrey Epstein came to light. Will she ever live it down? None of them should ever live it down. So that's who Peggy Siegel is. With the notes. And then him was the house manager for Jeffrey Epstein. Alrighty. Okay, let's get back to. Okay. So let's get back to the report. Where are we? Okay. Where's one is? Okay, here we go. One is Montgomery County, Maryland Health Department Food Services ID number for Juan and Ghislaine Maxwell. Note paper with names and phone numbers. Photocopies of the trash collected were attached with supplement. Detective Pagan was advised of the contents that were collected for evidentiary value. But this is like the first time we see Ghislaine Maxwell's name mentioned in these reports. And then it goes on to say, on March 31st, 2005, Sergeant S. requested that I set up a surveillance vehicle on El Brea Way and conduct video surveillance of the front exterior of Epstein's residence. At 3 p.m., I set up a surveillance video equipped with a video monitoring device. The surveillance vehicle was parked on El Brea, monitoring El Brea Way approximately 50 feet east of Epstein's driveway. The purpose of the video surveillance was to gather investigative intelligence by monitoring and recording all vehicle and pedestrian traffic entering and leaving Epstein's property. The video surveillance tapes were changed daily with a new Maxell T160 VHS tape. I think those were like the only kind of VHS tapes available at the time. Anyway, it continues. So, video surveillance was established for Epstein's from March 31st, 2005 through to April 5, 2005. On April 5th, 2005, video surveillance was concluded. I reviewed the videotapes and advised Detective Pagan the surveillance videos yielded no evidentiary value. Okay, on April 1st, 2005 at 9:30 a.m., I responded to the area. So when was it? March 31st to 2005. No, March 31st to April 5th. He said he recorded and saw nothing. All right, so this is from April 1st, 2005 at 9:30 a.m. I responded to the area of 358 El Brea Way to meet with Town Palm Beach sanitation employee Jesse Jones. While parked in the area, While parked in the area of 358 waiting to collect Epstein's trash, I observed a white female who I recognized as Nadia Marchinkova from her Florida driver's license photograph. I made no contact with Nadia Marchinkova. While parked in the area, I also observed Epstein's GMC Yukon truck leave the property as well as other vehicles arrive and park across the street from the property. The occupants of these vehicles appear to be housekeepers, maintenance men, and gardeners. At 9:38 a.m., so I guess this is still April 1st, I met with Town of Palm Beach sanitation employee Jesse Jones. I observed Jones enter the driveway and collect the trash from Epstein's property. I followed Jesse to a predetermined area, at which time I collected the trash bags from the sanitation truck. I transferred the trash bag to the sanitation department, where I sifted through its contents. I collected mail, correspondence, addresses to Jeffrey Epstein, automotive recording records, and personnel documents for Juan and Beta, so maybe his wife, Benesiak. Same last name, I'm thinking wife, as well as Jeffrey Epstein's note paper with the names and appointment times for 2 minor redacted victims. No last names or other personal information was written on the notepad. And yes, Juan was the house manager, Beta was his wife. It is in one of the Epstein documentaries, one of the millionth Epstein documentaries, where they refuse to tell us all the information, but that's okay. Sonia's here with the unredacted truth. We continue. So Detective Officer Lee continues to say, while sifting through Epstein's trash, I also collected 3-inch purple finger-sized object, which had a broken end. The object appeared to be a broke piece from a toy similar to a cyclone, possibly used for rectal gratification. This object was photographed for Detective Pagan, packaged in a biohazard evidence bag, possible body fluids, and secured as investigative evidence. All items collected from Epstein's trash were turned over to Detective Bacon for evidentiary purposes. Oh, I have like the heebie-jeebies because Sally mentioned something about a purple massager being used on her. On April 5th, 2005, which is the last day of his video surveillance, it goes on to say, at 9:18 a.m., I met with Town of Palm Beach sanitation employee Jesse Jones. I observed Jones enter the driveway of 358 El Brea Way and collect trash from Epstein's property. I followed Jesse to a predetermined area at which I collected the trash bags from the sanitation truck. I transported the trash bags to the sanitation department, where I sifted through its contents. I collected mail correspondence addresses to Jeffrey Epstein, as well as a note paper, important message, with names and telephone numbers. The following are the items collected from Epstein's trash: Joanne G. with a phone number, blank piece of white paper with a phone number, black paper with a phone number, black paper with a phone number, David with a phone number, an MSN web page, email address for Adriana, which is Cinca, I believe Adriana was also placed as a suspect in the MPA, but was a victim. Okay, let me get this straight. The only female people that I 100% don't see, it's my opinion, do not see as victims in this horrid thing is Ghislaine and Sarah Kellan. Actually, frankly, I see Ghislaine Maxwell closer of a victim than Sarah Kellan because she had some messed up shit with her father and all that stuff before she even met Epstein. Still, zero. Not excusing it whatsoever. But Sarah Kellan, my enemy number one. Okay, it goes on to say, and cry about it. It goes on to say, the following items were documented for Detective Pagan's investigation for evidentiary purposes. On April 6th, 8th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 15th, 2005, at approximately 9:30 a.m., I met with Town of Palm Beach sanitation employees. I observed the employee enter the driveway of 358 El Brea Way and collect the trash from Epstein's property. I followed the employee to a predetermined area, at which time I collected the trash from the sanitation truck, transported the trash bags to the sanitation department, where I sifted through its contents. So it looks like Detective Pagan would let them sift through it, while Detective Joe was like wanted to be there and made them like kind of look through it at the police station. Okay, so Detective Officer Lee's notes continue that on all documents collected from Epstein's trash during my assistance were turned over to Detective Michelle Pagan, for evidentiary purposes. He then writes, on June 14, 2005, Detective Michelle Pagan contacted me and advised me that the airplane belonging to Jeffrey Epstein of 358 El Brea Way was parked at the Palm Beach International Airport. Detective Pagan requested that I begin trash pulls for the purpose of gathering evidence and intelligence. I made contact with Town of Palm Beach Sanitation Office Supervisor Tony Higgins and requested trash pulls for 358 Brea Way to begin on June 15, 2005. On June 15, 2005, I met with sanitation employee. I observed the employee enter the driveway of 358 El Brea and collected the trash from Epstein's property. I followed the employee to a predetermined area, at which time I collected the trash bags from sanitation truck, transported the trash bags to the sanitation department, where I sifted through its contents. The trash yielded negative results and no evidence was collected. No further trash was collected throughout the week due to the fact that Epstein's security gates remained closed throughout the week. Therefore, the sanitation employee were unable to gain access onto the property for collection of the trash. All evidence and intelligence gathered by this officer, he's an officer, Officer Lee, by this officer has been turned over to Detective Bureau, and no further action has been taken by this officer and of supplement. So as I read through this, it looks like maybe because it kept he would sift through it and he was the one deciding whether or not there was anything for evidence. That's why Detective Joe, when he took over the case, was like, bring them to me. Let me decide when and if anything is evidence or not. So where are we? 84 minutes. 84. Well, I'm going to also cut it down. There's a lot of ums and ahs. So we're going to pause here for this video. Again, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can follow along with the investigation. Read the notes for yourself. This time around, I am not narrating. I'm not cutting anything out. I am simplifying it. I have a habit of overcomplicating stuff, but we all want the same thing, and that's just to have the files revealed and the facts. And ladies and gentlemen, and those in between, that is what I'm offering you now. We're going to read through the evidence. We're going through the files. We're going to go. I can't wait for you guys to look at the grand jury and how the state attorney's office and prosecutors treated the victims on the stand. We're going to go through absolutely everything. Again, the Substack is now live. Thank you, everybody who's supporting us to get this truth out. It's been a lot of work. It's a long journey, but I am going to keep doing this until every single file of proof, of evidence you read, and no one can take your own knowledge, your words, what you see and what you know out of you. We don't even need to say alleged because we're reading the investigative notes verbatim. Once again, hit that subscribe button. And I will catch you for the next video where we continue on to the rest of Officer Ricarry's report, whereby he'll be speaking to more victims. He will be going through they'll be doing this search warrant as well. And we have copies of the search warrant receipt. We'll get all those details into the investigations. All right, I am Sonia, and this is the Unredacted Truth. See you next time.